Okay, the next attribute of the teacher of God is open-mindedness.
Open-mindedness. The centrality of open-mindedness, perhaps the last of the attributes the teacher of God acquires, is easily understood when its relation to forgiveness is recognized. Open-mindedness comes with lack of judgment. As judgment shuts the mind against God's teacher, so open-mindedness invites him to come in. As condemnation judges the Son of God as evil, so open-mindedness permits him to be judged by the voice for God on his behalf. As the projection of guilt upon him would send him to hell, so open-mindedness lets Christ's image be extended to him. Only the open-minded can be at peace, for they alone see reason for it. That's what you just said.
A little motivation to open our mind, or open my mind.
And God, teacher of God. Now, just based on our, I think what we're as when you take on your role as the teacher of God for the course's curriculum, after you've been trained, because you need training to be a teacher of God, because you can't just poof. But what you're teaching is God's definition of who you are by teaching your brother that you're the same. That's why it's all about forgiveness and continually monitoring what thought system am I teaching. Because I want God's thought system and the Word of God about who I am and who you are to be what I teach in my actions, in my words, in my thoughts, in my behavior. So gradually, he said, readiness is not mastery, so I'm not expecting you to master this every moment yet, but you're ready and walking toward it, and you will master it, because as you follow this direction, you're going to keep being reinforced about the rightness of your choice, because you're going to gain peace, more acceptance of yourself and everyone else. Things are going to work out with more tranquility. You won't have as much distress and fear and anxiety, and so wouldn't anybody want that? Yes. Okay.
How do the open-minded forgive? They have let go all things that would prevent forgiveness. They have in truth abandoned the world and let it be restored to them in newness and in joy so glorious they could never have conceived of such a change. Now is nothing as it was formerly. Nothing but sparkles now, which seemed so dull and lifeless before. And above all are all things welcoming, for threat is gone. No clouds remain to hide the face of Christ. Now is the goal achieved. Forgiveness is the final goal of the curriculum. It paves the way for what goes far beyond all learning. The curriculum makes no effort to exceed its legitimate goal. Forgiveness is its single aim, at which all learning ultimately converges. It is indeed enough. I really love how it says you give up the world and then you get it back in a new form, glorious, joyful, sparkling.
I like sparkles.
Does that mean the same world transformed, or a new world, or what?
That would be the real world, how it's explaining the world, the ego, through the ego's eyes, sees lots of projections of guilt. So it's clouded with fearful images and fearful ideas of guilt. So when the clouds are gone, like he said, and you can see the face of Christ, now you've got the same, appearance that you're in this world, but your interpretation of the meaning of everything sparkles with a newness, because now you're seeing the spiritual reality and the spiritual interpretation of what's going on in your life, rather than the fearful one that made it look like you were losing things. So that's why forgiveness, and he says forgiveness is the way you acquire the real world, where you have the eyes to see the real world. And that's why this whole course is about learning to forgive your images of guilt, your clouds of guilt that are obscuring both your reality from your understanding and experience, and it's clouding your view of your brother too. And you're doing this together, so, meaning as you release your brother, you're releasing yourself, as he's explained many times. Doesn't that make sense? So that's why our focus is forgiveness. You want to know that's your major function. It doesn't mean you're not going to be assigned other things that are essential and important and you want to do it, but always you want to be focusing on where am I seeing ideas of guilt and where am I projecting them, where am I experiencing the fear from them, and find and practice forgiveness. That's our ultimate purpose and function as we try to awaken and do our part in the plan to awaken us all to our inheritance as
So
something
it's
more
God.
than we thought.
Okay.
Very good.
That's
Fill in the blank. I'll
That's
start saying, fill in the blank.
Now you're gonna give us open-ended sentences?
Okay.
You may have noticed that the list of attributes of God's teachers does not include things that are the Son of God's inheritance. Terms like love, sinlessness, perfection, knowledge, and eternal truth do not appear in this context. They would be most inappropriate here. What God has given is so far beyond your curriculum, our curriculum, thank you, that learning but disappears in its presence. Yet while its presence is obscured, the focus properly belongs on the curriculum. It is the function of God's teachers to bring true learning to the world. Properly speaking, it is unlearning that they bring, for that is the true learning in the world. It is given to the teachers of God to bring the glad tidings of complete forgiveness to the world. Blessed indeed are they, for they are the bringers of salvation.
Yeah, see, this is one of the great concepts that the Course in the text really develops and with great logic explains so that you can even understand it logically about why we have to do this forgiveness. And the reason is because we have to undo things we've taught ourselves about who we are. We don't have to teach ourselves who we are because who we are was given to us by God. That's beyond this curriculum. That's just set. But it's all clouded. We can't see it anymore because we've taught ourselves other things. We've taught ourselves about guilt and about fear and about vulnerability. And we've taught ourselves, because we listen to the lies of the serpent, the lies of the ego about who we are, things that aren't true. And it's clouding us so we don't know who we are anymore. But who we are doesn't have to be, that's why it says terms like love, sinlessness, perfection, knowledge, and eternal truth. That's who we really are. That's who everyone is, whether they're a teacher of God or not. That's why that's not what the attributes of a teacher of God are, because that's the truth about everybody. What a teacher of God is doing after you practice this mind training is you're now beginning to teach the fact that we're all that through your open-mindedness, patience, faithfulness, defenselessness, tolerance, joy, trust. Right? Doesn't that make sense? So that's why we're undoing what we've taught ourselves through the Course's forgiveness and miracles, and then we acquire these traits because of the undoing. We no longer are fearful as fearful. We now trust. We are more open-minded, all these things. But doesn't that make sense?